Hello, bonsoir, and welcome to the Get French Football News Show. I'm Nathan Staples, and joining me this week are Eric Devine and Philippe Bargil. We have another action-packed show for you this week, but don't worry, we won't be blackmailing either of our guests this evening if anything gets a little out of hand. But before that, here are your latest headlines. After a somewhat dour international break, the welcome return of Ligue 1 began with Friday's clash between last year's second, third and third place sides, with Monaco hosting Lyon. Leonardo Jardim's makeshift defensive midfield looked to have done enough to produce 3 points thanks to Mario Pasalic, until Rafael notched his first Ligue 1 goal on 84 minutes, preserving a point for the visitors, who remained sixth. Saturday's early match saw champions and leaders Paris Saint-Germain travel to Corsica to take on Bastia, the Furiani having been the site of perhaps the club's most infamous defeat under Laurent Blanc. A draw for the hosts looked to be on the cards after Zlatan Ibrahimovic spurned several fine chances in the early going, but the big Swede redeemed himself twice in 11 second-half minutes, netting twice to keep the capital club's cushion atop the table at 5 points. In the multiplex, Angers and Caen both notched gritty road wins against Toulouse and Reims, respectively. Les SCO coming from behind to win 2-1, and Julien Ferre's goal on 74 minutes, the sole strike in Caen's match, as the two maintained their surprising starts to the season. Guingamp and Lille played to a 1-1 draw at the Stade Rue des Roues, while Saint-Etienne defeated bottom side Gazalec 2-0 thanks to a somewhat controversial Robert Berich goal and a fine finish from Kevin Money-Paquet, maintaining their hold on fourth place. In the multiplex's final match, Nantes scored a surprising 3 goals, including a rocket from Valentin Rongier, to open his Ligue 1 account to ease past Troyes, who remain in the bottom 3. Just above the relegation places are Marseille, who could only scrape a 1-1 draw at the Velodrome against Lorient. Benjamin Mukanjo scored his 5th Ligue 1 goal to earn a point for Les Merlus. The 5 o'clock kickoff pitted Bordeaux against Montpellier, the first of 3 consecutive matches against the bottom 3 for Les Girondins, but despite their best efforts of Willy Sagnon's men, they could only manage a scoreless draw, with the fans whistling them off at full time. The weekend's grand show pitted Nice against Rennes, a matchup of somewhat surprising European contenders, and the visitors put on yet another show, scoring several fine goals, including Hatem Ben Arfa's league-leading 7th to win 4-1. In Ligue 2, despite losing for the second match in a row, Dijon stayed top, with Metz and Nancy 2 points off the pace. In injury news, Monaco's Adama Traore will miss 3 to 4 months with a broken ankle, while Lyon youngster Aldo Kalulu is set to miss 2 months due to an ankle issue, further deepening Hubert Fournier's injury woes ahead of tomorrow's crucial Champions League game. And that is all for now. And remember to follow the latest goings on within the world of French football. Head on over to our website and follow us on Twitter. The links are in the description. Also, feel free to get in touch with the show tonight by tweeting us at the GFFN show. Please, we love to hear from you. We start tonight with some slightly unsavoury comments from Bastia defender Sebastian Squillaci, which I won't quite repeat here, but who told Zlatan Ibrahimovic in no certain terms what he thought of him after PSG's 2-0 win at the weekend. So that got me thinking, Philip, about Zlatan's impact since he joined the side back in 2012. What has his impact been in Liga?
It's been mostly positive, because when he first arrived at PSG, people were basically PSG fans were dancing in the streets next to the Parc des Princes, and as time went on, so he showed his class. Obviously, I mean, he is a world-class player, one of the best players in the world. He scored some amazing goals, especially the long ranges. People went over and over with that, and they were special goals. But at some point, the opponents, especially the defenders, started to be annoyed with him, because they felt that the referee was not treating Ibrahimovic like a normal player. They were treating him like some kind of guy who could not do any fouls, and if a defender got the ball from him, the defender made a foul. So it took a while to change that. And then Ibrahimovic had some dire spells. Last season he was awful, and he basically had the media on his back all the time. I mean, he that kind of player has the media on its back in every single game basically. But we all remember where he basically insulted Liga and France as a country, and he then apologized. But he's had some angry moments as well. And Saturday was basically a case of Schillaci thinking that Ibrahimovic was not respecting the opponents, and he does has that kind of body language sometimes. But let's not forget that we've had lots of people telling him what a good professional he is. Probably not during official games of Liga. I remember Carlo Ancelotti saying that some players would show up late for training, and Ibrahimovic would, and actually most of them were French. Ibrahimovic would go and see them and say, "Hey, what are you doing? I mean, you're earning good money. You could come to training on time." And Ancelotti appreciated that. So he is still a good pro, but I can see where Schillaci is coming from, because he does have that kind of body language saying, "I'm the best, way over all of you."
Eric, what do you think to Zlatan's time in France? I mean, the comments from Sebastian Squillaci were a bit unsavoury.
Yeah, I mean, you can say what you want about his attitude, but I think his record speaks for itself. I mean, this is a player who probably wouldn't be notching these same statistics, were he still playing in, one of the leagues that are better than France. I don't want to say a top league, because I think Ligue 1 is still one of the best leagues in the world, but there are ones that are better. But I think, more than anything, what we've got to give him credit for is having the name appeal that, really jump-started this PSG project. I mean, if we look back to sort of the first acquisitions of the current QSI era, I mean, we're looking at the team overpaying at the time for Javier Pastore, bringing in Blaise Matuidi, Jeremy Menez. Don't get me wrong; these are good players, and the way Matuidi in particular, I think, has developed is outstanding. But I think that PSG are, one can make a fair case for this team being the fourth best in the world, behind Bayern and the two Spanish teams. I think that even if you think that there might be someone else there, I think they're certainly in that conversation, in that second tier, just behind those true contenders for the Champions League. So, bearing that in mind, what his name has given, as well as his performance on the field, has given this project legitimacy. Are they going to bring in a Thiago Silva, a David Luiz, an Angel Di Maria, no matter what wages they're offering, without that sense of legitimacy there? And, particularly as Lyon has sort of fallen away over the past 5 or 6 years, the French league really desperately needed a team that could be a marquee team to keep the league on the radar, as it were. I mean, we've seen other leagues sort of, fall away without a lack of a consistent team that is a contender to do well in the Champions League. I'm looking particularly at the Dutch league, who've really slipped down the rungs over the past few years as they've, failed to hold on to their stars. But with this PSG project, Zlatan's always been at the forefront of it, and what it's done is it's really allowed the team to be built in a sensible way. In addition to those big money players, I mean, we can't undersell the likes of Verratti coming in at, well, it was really a pittance. He was a relatively unknown player during his time at Pescara in Italy, and he's really blossomed as well. I mean, there's a lot of positivity to be taken from what recognition this team's given the league as a whole. Now, the other side of that coin, of course, is the way that the French league has now come to be treated in the press, particularly in the UK. And I'm thinking about I'm always hearing jokes on various podcasts, whether it be the Football Ramble or Football Weekly, joking about the one team league, and obviously in terms of the championship, I think we've got to look at it, that being done and dusted this year. But there's a lot of quality beyond that, and I think that people, fans could use PSG as sort of a bridge, right? If we say, okay, well, let's see PSG play on a league match and not a Champions League match, and they play against a Rennes, for example, and they see the likes of an Entep or a Ducouré playing and doing really well. Well, that's what's gonna breed a better appreciation for and more fans of Ligue 1. So there's a lot of really good things to be taken from Zlatan. The dominance is far from ideal, but my favorite team having won 7 titles in a row, I can't really complain about that too much. So on the whole, I think Zlatan's been a very positive influence in Ligue 1.
I read during the later, I think it was between 2005 and 2010, that Ibrahimovic, I'm not sure if he actually has won the Champions League.
He's not. I'm aware. I think he's won. Every team he's been at have won the Champions League as soon as he's left. Unfortunately, I think that was a running theme for a while. But yeah.
So PSG are probably going to win it next season then.
Yeah.
But and this is basically the argument the fans from Premiership side said, is that he didn't turn up on the big stage. That was the biggest criticism. So I don't know how true this is, or Nathan, in the UK this is the real representation of Zlatan, because he doesn't seem to be rated that highly as he is in other countries like Italy, Spain, and France. And actually, I don't think his spell at Barcelona went that well. I mean, I think he only stayed a season or something like that, and it didn't go actually that well. He does win leagues, that's for sure. But I don't know if those comments of him not showing up in the Champions League are actually valid every single time, but he did get sent off pretty quickly, albeit very harshly against Chelsea last season. But other than that, in the league, he does fantastically well.
I will say, sorry, the general opinion of Zlatan in the UK has improved in the last sort of couple of years. Especially, I remember the sort of defining moment being, oddly enough, in a Sweden friendly when he scores a hat-trick, and that seemed to be the tipping point where people went, okay, he is a really good player. And that was always the worry about the big games, but that conversation could be brought at anyone. I think it's regularly brought at Wayne Rooney in England. Every single big game Wayne Rooney gets slaughtered for. Ronaldo's regularly hammered for it. But Eric, do you think he goes missing in the big games? Can that be labelled at him?
Yeah, I mean, we the main Twitter feeds just posted something here. This is a Champions League knockout stage games. Ibrahimovic has played 40 matches and scored 7 goals. Cristiano Ronaldo, on the other hand, has scored 39 times in 55 games, at a rate approaching 1.5 goals per game, or 1.5 games per goal. So, if we look at the knockout, for teams operating this level, we're talking the PSG, the Bayerns, the Real, the Barcelonas, teams that are truly contenders for the Champions League, being able to score 3 or 4 times in the group stages is really immaterial if we look at the quality of some of the teams that these top-level teams are faced against in the group stages. In the knockout rounds, the business end of the Champions League, it's where results seem to happen. And the fact is that on that European stage, for whatever reason, Ibrahimovic hasn't gotten it done. But to say he hasn't gotten it done on a big stage is, I think, a little bit hurtful. I mean, if we look at, let's go back to the World Cup playoffs, Sweden versus Portugal, Ronaldo versus Ibra. Ibrahimovic did very well. I mean, he scored 2 in the return leg against Portugal. It just wasn't enough. He's always taken the national team on his shoulders. It's just a matter of, perhaps there's this complex built up within himself about the Champions League, right? it's the one major club trophy that he has not won. So and Sweden are never going to win anything internationally. Let's face it. So maybe he feels less pressure in that situation. But yeah, he has not gotten it done in the Champions League, and it is a little disappointing given the showings he's had, across a variety of other competitions.
I will balance that point that we made there with another one about Zlatan Ibrahimovic's goal scoring record in the Champions League. If we add all the games together, he's currently 12th on the overall list with 43, currently only behind current active players in the Champions League of Benzema, Messi, and Ronaldo. So he has scored plenty in the Champions League. I mean, the only other active player who's close to that sort of number, who's young enough, is Thomas Muller's on 30, Wayne Rooney's on 29, Lewandowski is on 26. So he has scored quite a fair amount, and he seems to be just in the wrong place at the wrong time for the Champions League. And there will be a number of big players that will have never won the Champions League, and it's kind of the rule of the roost. But I do want to talk a little bit about Ibrahimovic's attitude a little bit, Philip. You've both mentioned that he can sometimes be a bit arrogant and impetuous, but isn't that part of his appeal?
Yeah, of course. This is what makes him the player he is. Because some of the players, it's a bit like Cristiano Ronaldo. He is arrogant, but with his record, well, he can. So it's all a big game for him, and he knows that the harder challenge, the harder he actually tries. But there is a point where he doesn't try, and he becomes he basically becomes the weakest link of the side. He's done that many times last season. He's started quite well, but he's coming towards the end of his career, and last season just showed that he's not beyond getting a bit old for world class international football. He's made a lot of mistakes last season, and I think he wants a last decent season at PSG. He's having a better season than last season, but he's not. So he can still do better. He certainly could have scored a bit more at Bastia on Saturday.
Eric, are we picking at hairs at a very, very talented footballer here?
I think so. Like I said, the fact that PSG have gone from a borderline European qualifying team to one of the best 4 or 5 teams in Europe is down to Ibrahimovic. Like I said, it's not always what he's done on the pitch, but the force of personality that he has that makes players want to come here to come to Paris to play. In a team with his sort of presence and electricism and the fact that he's there is an attraction for players because they know the way that he operates. And I'm talking about the raft of former AC Milan players that came in. The Thiago Silva, David Luiz, Angel Di Maria, Thiago Motta. I mean, these players are coming because there's a force of personality about Ibrahimovic that for him having done it with a variety of big clubs that lend legitimacy to this project that makes them want to come. Yes, PSG pay the highest wages of any club in the world, but if a player's in the prime of their career, and is perhaps a little lacking in European trophies, they're going to want to go out and add to that cabinet, or win a Champions League or have a chance at the Champions League. And it's not. And let's face it, they're not here to play with Javier Pastore. They're here to play with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who for all his foibles, both personality and on the pitch, he's the attraction for both the fans and the players at this point. And he's the key to the progress that PSG have made in the last 5 years.
Well, I think you touched on it momentarily, Philip, but he did turn 34 a couple of weeks ago. So he's nearing the end of his career. Is he ending his PSG career anytime soon, do you think?
Well, his contract runs out, sorry, this summer, and there's no sign that his contract is going to be extended. Correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, to me, he won't be a PSG player next season, and I think that regarding FFP, it's going to be more good news than bad news because he is 34. I'm going to say over the hill, but for the Champions League, I do reckon he is over the hill, and I think we should get someone a bit younger, like Aguero. That would be good.
That would be dreamland, I would think.
Yeah, I'd be pretty
mighty,
happy to see him in Liga. It would be all right, I suppose.
mighty money versus mighty money there. I don't think I could see that quite happening. I think they might block that Man City with the amount of riches they've got. Eric, if he does go, then where do you see him going next?
Well, I think that there's really two options for him at this point. I think, perhaps he might join the Premier League because that's sort of the one frontier he's not crossed yet. I could see him, being an option at the likes of a Manchester United or a Chelsea, somebody who are in need of a backup striker who could, come on and affect games in the way in the sort of that Drogba role or the role that Van Persie has had in recent years for one of those teams. Or I could see him going to the MLS. His book came out here, I Am Zlatan, and it did well, and it's been well received and reviewed. So there's obviously an interest in him here in the United States as well. So I'd say it's got to be one of those two routes for me.
Yeah, and I'm getting information that the MLS is most possible next summer, and there's no intention from either party to extend at the moment, which is a shame for us Ligue 1 fans. But you mentioned it there, Eric. It'd be a little dream come true, I think, even at 34, if he came to Manchester United for me. I've
still
been
need
a big fan of his for years.
Sorry, Nathan, but PSG really need a rehaul. I mean, they really need fresh players. You're not going to win the Champions League by buying just one player per year, basically. I mean, I have nothing against Angel Di Maria. He's a fine footballer, and I hope he does well on Wednesday evening. But it's there really is not enough. Let's say dynamism in this transfer policy, and it hasn't really been thought through, I think. And I think the wages that Zlatan will free up will help PSG have a more, shall we say, flexible transfer window. And this is basically the whole point, because we're finally going to see the Zlatan leaving if he does not renew his contract. Which to be honest, I kind of wish he doesn't. He's going to be the first player bought by Leonardo, so we're talking about Thiago Silva, Verratti, Sirigu, etc., to actually leave the club. I mean, we actually saw PSG inviting Sirigu to leave because he was not going to play, but then Trapp got injured and so on. But now will start the exodus, some kind of exodus, because with Zlatan gone, will Cavani stay? Is Cavani going to stay? Is Lavezzi going to stay? It's going to free up. It's going to free up a whole set of things for this summer, and this is quite exciting, actually.
Yeah,
if we look at some of those players, I mean, the likes of Lavezzi and maybe Luka Dean as well. I mean, their importance to the team is, slim to none. I don't think that they're part of, PSG's grand plan to win the Champions League.
No, but they're still there. That's the point, because Lavezzi has said that he's not happy at PSG and that he should have been sold last summer. But the point is, he's still there, and this is the problem, because players are not leaving because nobody can afford their wages. And this is a big problem. It basically makes PSG's transfer market very dull in the grand scheme of things.
Well, I mean, the counterpoint to that too would be some of the players that they've bought, I think, have dramatically increased in value. I mean, particularly Verratti and Matuidi. And I think I would argue that if Marquinhos were to be sold, he would fetch more than they paid for him as well. I think that they've bought pretty well. I mean, we look at the. I mean, think about what City paid for Mangala. You know, who's a better center back, Marquinhos or Mangala? I mean, I know he's had a better start to the season than last year, but I mean, come on, he's a 50 million pound player right now. You
Mm.
know, it's a matter of, you know, I think it's a matter of bringing in players at a younger age. You know, I mean, Di Maria is a great player, but he's 27. I think that's sort of the misstep that, you know, that's been made here, that bringing these players in at 27, 28, 29, 30, 30, 31 years old. That's what's really the stumbling block for PSG for me, is not necessarily the wages, is that, you know, other clubs can afford those wages, particularly with the money in the Premier League now. But, you know, you can't tell me that Lavezzi wouldn't help clubs in the Premier League. But it's a matter of, you know, what is he, 30, 31? There's not a market for players who don't have, you know, at least some level of sellability, if you will.
Yeah, and it's a shame that
This
someone
is-
like Lavezzi won't go.
That's a big problem. I mean, I think we can talk about this for another half hour. But it's the same with Cavani, who of course is playing the football of his life now. Well, probably not, but you know, I'm no Serie A expert. But last season he was also terrible. And you know, not having this Zlatan aura and saying, I'm Zlatan, I'm number 9, I have to play where I want to play. This basically will give, I think, Cavani a lot of freedom of spirit, shall we say, because he'll be able to play whenever he wants, and he won't have this pressure, because we saw that when Zlatan was injured, Cavani was all that, okay, I need to perform while Zlatan is injured, otherwise I'll never perform, and he didn't.
You think Cavani didn't?
Sorry?
You think Cavani didn't perform?
No, I mean last season, not this season. But I didn't think
Well,
I didn't think Cavani was particularly good while Zlatan was injured.
you know, I'd beg to differ on that. He scored a couple of really important goals in the Champions League group stages.
No, I
Uh,
agree with that. But the performance, I mean, just to many fans in France, in Paris, or wherever, it was just not good enough. And he was actually regarded as a bit of a donkey last season. It may sound extremely harsh, but you know, PSG have become that kind of club.
And
yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
and it's interesting to think we don't know where the manager might be next season. He might not be there either. So
Yeah, what's the status about Mourinho leaving Chelsea? Because having Mourinho in Liga could be quite, shall we say, cool.
interesting more than
Interesting,
anything.
yeah.
I think you'll get a good 3 years out of him, like everyone else does.
Exactly, and then you can leave.
At the moment, it seems like it's difficult to tell with Jose's poker face, but I have the feeling he will probably go. This is that classic third season syndrome from Mourinho, and he does seem to be losing a grip partly of the dressing room. I think it's all stemmed from the initial in the first couple of days with the issue with Eva Canera, the doctor. But moving back to sort of PSG talk quickly, just to round things up, I think we can all agree that Zlatan's had a terrific impact, and he's certainly been one of my favourite players for the last 10 years. I can only imagine him going to the MLS, really. I would love him to have even one season at Man United, but would be delighted. I am being told that there's no chance of Mourinho, supposedly. So maybe Carlo Ancelotti back. That might be quite nice. But I can give PSG their answer for all their problems if they like, and that begins with a G and it ends with a Riesman, and I think that'll be where they go in the summer. But we will move on. There has always been a fair number of surprises so far this season, but we wanted to go a little more in depth tonight about the two that have really shone this season, and that's Caen and Angers. They're still in the top 3, 10 games into the season, Eric. Let's focus on Angers first. How have they managed to do it?
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot of positives to take from Angers. They've really embraced what a promoted side needs to do, and it's not to. I think, for example, we talked first of all about the style with which Troyes played last year, and now we look at how poorly Troyes are doing. I think that in Ligue 2, the talent jump from Ligue 2 to Ligue 1 is a really big one. I mean, you get some players coming out of Ligue 2 that really do well. I'm looking at likes of Diafra Sakho going to West Ham and doing well. Sofiane Bouffal's done well at Lille. You do have some polished gems, as it were, but there's by and large a pretty precipitous difference in the level of talent there. So, what Angers did was to say, well, okay, we're going to be really defensively sound. We're not going to worry about possession or passing. We're going to worry about limiting other teams' quality chances. We're going to play this physically imposing, tough 4-3-3. We're going to have a smart transfer policy. They had a little money from the sale of Bouffal, so they bring in. They made Manjani's loan permanent. They brought in Ndoye, Saiss, and Ketkeo Fampone from other Ligue 2 sides, players that had done really well in Ligue 2. They'd seen these players up close, and they knew that they could hack it, as it were, in the top flight. So a smart transfer policy, defensive solidity, being opportunistic, and getting it done with set pieces. And I think that to make those adjustments, to realize that they're going to have to approach matches differently in the top flight, has done really well for them. They've got, I believe, the best or second best defense in the league. They've only lost once, and it might not always be the most aesthetically pleasing, but I'm having a change of heart. I'd written a piece about them a couple weeks ago saying, I wasn't that impressed. They had played against Reims, and it was I thought Reims had been the better team and were unlucky. But, I don't think Angers are going away. I mean, at least not yet. They've sort of had some lucky moments in when they've played certain teams. I'm thinking particularly about the likes of Marseille and a couple others. They seem to have come up against these teams at the right moment. But, by and large, this is a team that, is made up largely of veteran players and, are buying into what's being done, and it makes a lot of sense. The club's hierarchy and the management have just really approached things in a sensible fashion, and whether they end up in European places coming in the season, I don't know, but they're not going to get relegated, and that should be the aim for a team of their means.
Yeah, and industrious would be certainly the word I'd use to describe Angers at the moment. Philip, we didn't really predict Angers doing much this season at the start of the campaign. Has it been a real surprise in France how well they've done as well?
There's always been this type of financial gap which has a bit widened in the last few seasons, but you always had a Ligue 2 side, coming to the top flight and just playing their usual Ligue 2 game. And Ligue 2 is a very shall we say, defensive league. It's very organized, very structured. So when Ligue 2 sides usually get promoted, they come with an organization. They come with a way of playing, unless they get all their players nicked in the summer. But that almost never happens. So I'm not saying all Ligue 2 come in always extremely organized and all that, but Angers just do. They kept basically the same way of playing, be it home or away, and they're having a real crack at it because they haven't been in Ligue 1 for a very, very long time. And can you imagine Angers are second with more than a third of the probably not a third, but more than a quarter of the season gone, just 5 points behind PSG, who are destined to win the league. I mean, Angers could be in Europe next season. It's absolutely massive because this side struggled so many years not to get relegated to basically non-league, which is the third division and National. So it's great to see them at this position at this time of the season, and I think they're just enjoying the ride, and long may it continue, because we said a lot of shall we say, experts or followers of Ligue 1 said that Montpellier's great start to the season was not going to last the season. They actually won the league against PSG, which was PSG's first season under the Qataris, but Montpellier won the league. So I mean, some things do happen in this league, and sometimes some side out of nowhere, just by pure good scouting and good organization, and good man management as well, just can pull out wonders. And when you see that Lyon are having a very rough time this season, that was that Marseille are closer to the relegation zone than the European places. It said who else can finish in the top three?
That's an interesting point. It's always nice and romantic to think that they can carry on like that. But Philip, who at Angers has really stood out for you? I know some teams will try and come in for some of their players in January, and especially in the summer if they carry on like that, like they are. But who's really been key for them so far?
During the defense, for my personal opinion, the defense has been quite good. I liked Ismail Traoré. He's been extremely solid. Abdul Kamar has been quite good as well. And I think it was, yes, Ket Kyo from Fun up front has been really good. There's also this type of player I'm looking at, Gilles Sunu, who had a rough time probably being substitute quite often, and he brings this kind of battle in the side. It's just these kind of players that they just want to play, and they are playing. They're probably not starters. They probably don't play every single minute, but they do play, and they're quite happy. They just look like a very enthusiastic outfit.
Eric, who do you think's really key to them and might be taken in the summer?
Might be taken in the summer. It's interesting to think about this. We see that some of these players move on. I mean, they lost the likes of Boufal and Jonathan Kodija in the last two windows, but it's hard to say because within this 4-3-3, the midfield, I think, to me, is the key to this. Romain Saiss is sort of the anchor, and Czech Endoy functions as this big sort of aerial presence, target man, not a striker, but able to do what a big physical striker can do. And then Mangiani is also willing to work a lot too. I would say that Keke Famphone is probably the most attractive player based on his ability with the ball at his feet. I could see him being swooped by a Premier League team or a team that's a little bit higher up the proverbial food chain in Liga. I mean, not at present, because there's only PSG ahead of them, but someone who's looking for a little bit of a creative catalyst going forward. I'm thinking maybe the likes of a Lille. I could see him balancing a 4-3-3 at Lille. With Boufal on the other side, for example, if Leo continue to struggle. But I think a lot of these players are just, not outstanding individual performers, but, really just key cogs in a team that's well organized. So, outside of, maybe Keke Famphone in the midfield three, I don't really see any of these players being huge potential targets to move on either in the winter or the summer.
Keke Famphone to the Premier League. That's what we like to hear. It'd be good to
I said
try and say that.
His creative abilities, I think, make him an obvious target. But I'm not. I'd like to see more of him before saying that he's of that quality.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more trying. The English commentators trying to say that name. Some will struggle more than others. As for Caen, Philip, they had a really good spell in midway through last season, but I don't think any of us really expected them to do something like this season, did we?
No, no. It's also really great to see them do something like that. It all started at Marseille and winning at Marseille, which they actually did last season as well. And the run just took a bit of a tumble in the third and fourth match days. They lost at Nice, which was actually Nice's first win of the season, and then they heavily lost at home to Lyon, or should I say to Nabil Fekir. And then it's been plain sailing. I think it's been Five wins from six, so that's pretty good. And again, nobody really predicted them to be that high up, but they've got a good goalkeeper. Vercout is an experienced goalkeeper. They've got the defense is pretty good. Really liking the likes of Adeoti, De La Place. Ferre is a great player who really he's not just your run-of-the-mill Ligue 1 player. He's shall we say he should be playing between the top. He should be playing for the top six sides, really. I think he's really good. Nicolas Seub does a great job protecting the defense, and Andy Delors looks to have settled in well. So it's a great surprise. It's a good surprise because it is a big place, and the faithful is all right, and Malherbe is also a decent stadium, and it would be actually good fun having them in the Champions League and Europa League. It's a bit too soon for that, but I think just like Angers, they're just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, and Julien Ferret certainly a very, very famous Ligue 1 veteran. We can say that he's certainly added a little bit of quality. Eric, what's really impressed you about them this season? And again, who do you think might be poached in the transfer windows?
Yeah, I think that going into this season, it could have been really easy to see Caen fold. I mean, this team lost a lot of players from last season, and even then, the defense was so uneven. They had one of the worst records in the league. Even with that huge run, they were dead last at mid-season. Without that little run in January and February of last year, I mean, they probably would have been relegated. As it was, I think they avoided relegation by 4 or 6 points. They were certainly a lower mid-table side. And then over the summer, they're losing Kante, Koita, Nanji, Benezet was on loan, Thomas Lemar. If Caen were bottom of the table with 2 or 3 points right now, I don't think that necessarily would have surprised anybody. So the way that Patrice Garand has got this team together and continued to keep things turning over is really a testament to his managerial philosophy and to the players they brought in. Andy Delors has been a really willing runner up front. Vincent Bessa, I think, has also been a really key acquisition. In addition to the players that Philip mentioned, I think I've been really impressed with this club top to bottom. In terms of players that get picked off, I think Delors, I could see him heading to a bigger club or back to England. His energy and running and dynamism are really tremendous. Any team that's trying to play on the counter, to have him as an outlet, I mean, he's just like an Energizer bunny with pace. He just keeps going, and he's not only a great finisher, but as the goal the other day showed, he's a great passer. His vision to pick out Ferret, to see Ferret's run and slot that ball over for him is not only unselfish, it shows great vision. I mean, this is a player who could be, I think, a tremendous acquisition for any team that's maybe scraping around the bottom of the Premier League and wants to stay up. So I will say that I can see Delors going to the Premier League and being a success for a team that wants to play counterattacking football. Aside from that, I could see maybe Damien De Silva being picked up by someone. He's had some discipline issues in the past, but I think his physical presence alongside Yaya, the other central defender, is really impressive. And as I mentioned earlier, there's certainly a big premium on central defenders these days, and he could be. I think he's only 28 or 29. He's still relatively young. He could be on the move himself.
The thing with Delors is that he already played in England. I didn't think it went too well with Wigan. I thought he did, and I looked it up, and he did play at Wigan for a season, I think. I think it was even less than a season.
It was 6 months. He went back on loan.
6 months, yeah, and it didn't look like it worked. Then he went back.
Well, okay. I mean, let's take some qualification to that. Wigan got relegated. The team was a mess. They were selling all their best players. Was Delors disappointed by what he'd signed up for, and just sort of, I mean, maybe his imagination of what England is like is not Wigan. I mean, maybe he's thinking he's going to a London or a Manchester or a Liverpool. I mean, I've never been to Wigan either, but maybe what his perception
Neither
of
have
the
I.
area was like was a little bit different. That's certainly been something that's happened to more than one foreign player coming to England.
Yeah,
Is that
sure.
they're in for a real culture shock when they actually arrive in the UK.
On a completely unrelated note, I think I saw on Twitter on L'Equipe an interview of Franck Tabanou. I think it was GFFN, saying that Franck Tabanou does not understand why Swansea bought him because he's not played. I think he hasn't even started a game. It's a complete opposite with Jordan Ayew, but not to. Go too much off topic, but it does happen when a Ligue 1 player gets bought by an English side. He gets offered lots and lots of cash, but at the end of the day, doesn't play. I think it happened to a Bordeaux player. Went to Crystal Palace, and then he said then the manager said, "I can't play you." I have
Yeah,
to
it
have
is.
to look it up. So it does happen.
I do know Taberneau hasn't played yet for Swansea, I don't think. They have Neil
Really.
Taylor there, who's a Welsh international, so I thought it was a little unusual when they bought him. I like Taberneau, but that's not happened. And to mitigate the Wigan talk, Uwe
Yeah,
Rosler
0 minutes.
was sacked a couple of weeks after Delors signed, and in came Malky Mackay, who didn't do anything, and he didn't play under him. Didn't
Mm.
even play as they were really struggling in sort of late December sort of times. So,
Well,
but I agree. I could imagine him playing well in lower Premier League. I think Championship is such a difficult division because it's so physical.
It was
Yeah.
It was Marange actually, as a player who was bought by Palace by I think it was Warnock. I can't remember his first name.
Yeah.
And,
Neil Warnock, yeah.
Neil Warnock, thank you. And then he said to Marange, "I can't play you. You're not in the you're not even in the squad to play any Premiership game." And Marange just went he went apeshit like you would expect, and he returned to Ligue 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Eric,
well,
what were you going to say?
sorry, yeah, just going back to where Wigan were when Delors was signed, Roberto Martinez had built that team up to play a certain, aesthetically pleasing, forward-thinking style of play, and if Delors had signed up for that with that set of players, and that rapidly changed as the team, as based on the team's new situation, especially at his age, he's still relatively young, 24, 25, I think. That's got to be really upsetting to a player. Thinking about coming to England and getting noticed and getting signed hopefully by a Premier League club. I can understand that. I mean, because the energy and willingness to work that I've seen from him at Caen and his numbers at Torres, I didn't see him play well there. Speak of a really dedicated, talented player who I think, I hope he stays at Caen. I hope he stays in the league. I think it makes them a great team to watch. But, it wouldn't be difficult to see him succeeding at a higher level.
True. And just to add very quickly to Philip's point about Marange, his contract was terminated after a couple of months, so at least it worked out for him. And very quickly, apologies to those who live in Wigan. I've been at least, and it's all right. It's not too bad. We will move on.
Oh,
very
that's just well,
That's not a dig.
That's fine.
I thought I'd rub it in.
Because it's one of those stadiums where there's not enough fans to fill the ground, so you can always turn up for a game and just don't have to plan anything. A bit like Blackburn, you just turn up and you can just go and watch a game. That's pretty cool.
It's a rugby league town mainly. Wigan, they'll even admit it themselves.
It's the Toulouse of England, shall we say?
Yes. So we'll move on quickly to disappointments this season, as there always tends to be when there's a few surprises. And that's mainly been Bordeaux, really, in the last couple of weeks, who've been down in the dumps. Was Willy Sagnol's side not the potential usurpers that we thought they might be this season, Eric?
Yeah, I tipped this team based on Sane and Diabate returning and the continued development of these youngsters. And some of the signings they made over the summer, likes of a Gajic, some really exciting young players to be a dark horse for the Champions League. But it seems like things have just fallen apart. I'm not really sure what Sagnol's doing. I mean, obviously the injury to Sertic has sort of forced his hand in terms of continuing to play that 4-3-1-2, which was so successful towards the back end of last season. But the tactical decisions he's making, the personnel decisions he's making, just don't make any sense to me. Henri Saivet, a lovely player, puts in good work, but he's never a defensive midfielder. And to persist in playing this 4-2-3-1 with Saivet as one of the holding pair when you've got Yambare on the bench, I don't understand what he's thinking. Then up front, he has Jussi making a start up top in a match you need to win. It's Montpellier, who've been poor this season. You need to get 3 points for that if you're entertaining any thoughts of continuing to play in Europe. And Unas, the youngster on the right, again, a great player, but really that's who you find the need to start. I just don't think that Sagnol has the best grip on this personnel. I mean, whether it's the stress of the Europa League starting to get to him, having not won in the group stage in that competition either, or what, I don't really know. I don't understand the personnel decisions he's making week in and week out. There's a ton of great players on this team, proven both proven veterans and young players, but the way he's trying to fit them together makes no sense. I mean, Nicolas Palois as a left back? Are you joking? I love Palois, but I mean, the crosses he was making yesterday, my God, I mean, he's never a left back. If you have Gajic on the bench, I don't understand why not play Gajic on the left and Guibert on the right, and then you've got a pair of decent attacking fullbacks that can get forward and support that team the way they played last season. Sagnol's did incredibly well towards the back end of last season to bring in Chantôme and shore up that defense, but right now it looks like he's really lost the plot in terms of personnel and tactics.
One of the things I don't get is that I read a few articles before the season started, and it was all about Bordeaux giving youth its chance. And you mentioned it was Gajic. He's just not doing that. I mean, the players he has played against Montpellier in this 4-2-3-1, so this absolutely horrible decision of putting Saivet next to Plasil. And I don't know if Chantôme was injured. Or was he on the bench? Maybe he was. Well, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be. Well, anyway, and he doesn't. He's got a huge potential of youngsters, and to be honest, Bordeaux have no money, so they're better off doing that. And he's just not doing it. He's basically the side that you had against Montpellier, except probably for Unas and Pablo. It's the same side as last season. And last season they weren't very pleasing on the eye, and they're not pleasing on the eye this season. And if you watch the game against Montpellier, it was pretty bad. Montpellier came just like you'd expect a side in their form, played for a goalless draw, and they got it without too much difficulty. I mean, creating chances has always been a problem. And I really do think that Bordeaux, the whole structure of the club really needs to be towards youth development, and just if the players are not good enough, just sell them, and just give youth its chance. I mean, it's what Lyon did, and they finished second last season. So
give youth a chance.
Well,
Whoever won anything with kids.
You can make an argument for that, but at the same time, we just talked about Caen and Angers and how Ligue 1 outside of PSG is wide open right now with the struggles that Marseille, Lyon, and Monaco are having. That's what's so frustrating, is that for as well as this team performed to shore themselves up defensively towards the back end of last season, and to have Diabate and Sané coming back to health, I mean, it's just incredibly frustrating that this team can't carry on as they had last season, because I think that again, Lucy Mariano certainly hurt. He had a great season last year, but this team should be in the top 5 at a minimum with the talent they have.
It's a tough one. Isn't
Somehow I don't think they'll finish top 5.
No, I don't either. But it's maddening.
I wouldn't be too happy if I were a Bordeaux fan, because since they won the league a very long time ago, it's been just so boring. And they had good managers. I mean, Sagnol is not stupid. He's a bit inexperienced, but he's not a stupid manager. And Gillot was an extremely able manager as well. There seems to be this kind of, I don't know, anti-trio. Trio is the Bordeaux chairman, Bordeaux owner of the Girondins. And there seem to be, yeah, this guy's a problem, and if this guy resigns or if this guy leaves, everything will go just fine. But there seems to be a real problem at Bordeaux. Just doesn't it doesn't look, shall we say, fluid. The play has been horrible for years, and I don't know. It doesn't look good.
It's an interesting one. Certainly is. I have a sneaky feeling Bordeaux will do all right at the end of the season. I think they're that kind of team that might struggle now, but I think Willy Sagnol's a very slight. Although his decisions at the moment might be bemusing, I think he's a shrewd operator, and I think he might turn things around. But we will move on to our final section tonight, which is the European football that comes across your way this week again. The real blockbuster pick this week is obviously Paris Saint-Germain hosting Spanish giants Real Madrid. Philip, how big is this game for PSG?
Yeah, it's massive. I'm quite surprised it's come so fast because we had such a dull international break. But the game is happening. It's coming very very fast. It's on Wednesday, so it's in 48 hours more or less. Yeah, it is quite important because I'm a bit wary of this one because if PSG do lose this one, it depends what kind of defeat they have, because if they win 2-1, they'll say, okay, PSG is at the level of Real Madrid, and they can face anyone, and they can, on their day, they can win. But imagine Real Madrid turning up and winning in style, like 2-0 or 3-0, with, I don't know, Benzema having a monstrous game, and putting David Luiz and Thiago Silva to the sword. Cristiano Ronaldo having an absolutely amazing game. Yeah, the press are going to destroy PSG for that. So I'm a bit wary of defeat, actually. There's no questions that both sides will be in the knockout stage come February. But yeah, a bit scared there.
Eric, what do you think to the game? I mean, Real Madrid are in reasonably
I
good
feel a
form.
little bit more confident. Verratti's a doubt with a calf issue, but Real Madrid have a lot of injuries themselves. You mentioned Benzema; he's likely out. Luka Modric, James Rodriguez, Pepe's out. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Real Madrid are Bale's out now. Real Madrid are really struggling with injuries, and obviously they have the sort of transcendent players and the likes of a Kroos or obviously a Ronaldo that can really turn the game. But I really think this is as big as it gets in the group stage for PSG. They need to win this match if they really want to be considered part of that conversation for the top 4 or 5 teams in Europe. Real Madrid are kind of back on their heels right now. Yes, Luiz is a miss. Yes, Trapp is potentially a miss. But in Sirigu, they've got good cover. The same thing with Marquinhos and for Luiz. They need to seize this opportunity. I'm not saying they have to win in style, but they have to turn in a good performance. Whether that's a draw or a win, I think it doesn't really matter in terms of the group. But take it to this team. Make Real Madrid and the rest of the footballing world see that the PSG are legitimate this year.
Would be nice to finish in front of them, though. It would send a message that Real Madrid, that PSG are finishing in front of one of the world's greatest sides, and that would send quite a message, as well as having an easier, shall we say, first knockout stage opponent. So that would be quite interesting.
Just to confirm on the end of that, Bale is definitely out of the game on Wednesday, and also Benzema is very unlikely according to Le Parisien. So it's maybe positives for PSG, but I still fancy Real Madrid personally. I sneakily think that in a strange way, Modric being injured is actually a blessing in disguise. It means that they won't have to play Kroos and Modric together. It gives them the chance to play someone like Casemiro in the middle, Or
Has Kroos actually been any good? Because I've heard.
Yeah, Kroos has been fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Really has been. Yeah.
That's a shame.
It will give them some real balance, I think, and I think they will just about nick it. But it's going to be a close one. But there's a just as important game for Lyon on Tuesday night. Eric, in Russia against Zenit. They need to win this one, don't they?
Absolutely, no questions asked. Zenit are top of the group with 6 points. If they get a draw here, I would say even a draw here all but assures Zenit and Valencia going through, because that would leave Zenit on 7 points and Lyon on 2. I think that's just too much to make up over 3 matches, even if Ghent is one of them. And more injuries. Kalulu was hurt in the week. We saw Sergei Darder come off at halftime. I'm not sure if that was an injury or a tactical change on the part of Fournier, but yeah, it needs to be full throttle to get the points here for Lyon. They played well for a lot of the match against Valencia, but they're going to need to find that finish. They're going to need to score, and that's been their trouble all season. They've looked decent enough, but without Fekir, without Lacazette in fine form, this team's without an end product, and that's what's really hindering them right now.
Do we actually believe Lyon are going to turn this around?
No.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, but to any Lyon fans are listening, but they didn't exactly deserve anything from their trip at Monaco on Friday, and Zenit have been quite good, and Fournier still doesn't know what formation is the best for them, because now it can be easily, shall we say, contained. Now that there's not this kind of magic between Lacazette and Fekir, because Fekir is out until February, I think, or something big, and Lacazette is just not playing that well. Bouvou isn't playing that well either. I want to be positive about this, but I honestly think it's going to be 2-1 to Zenit, and that's basic. Yeah. And I think that's actually me being optimistic, because Zenit are doing extremely well, and I mean they did win at Valencia, which is quite good. I mean, that's not bad, and they'll probably want this done and dusted, because if they win, I think they're pretty much in the knockout stages.
They are having a couple of troubles in their domestic league, but I do really hope that Lyon pull out a result, and I actually quite fancy them. I think that if they can shore up shop and nick a goal, because Zenit are a little bit porous in defence at the moment, they could quite easily steal a result here and blow this group wide open. Very quickly, we're going to go through the Europa League games. I just want a quick answer from both of you. So first off, it's Saint-Etienne versus FK Dnipro. Eric?
Dnipro.
Ooh. Philip?
0-0.
At home, I think they might nick that one. Bordeaux head to Switzerland to take on Sion. Eric?
Isn't that at Bordeaux?
I believe it. Oh, it might be at Bordeaux. Yes, it is. Yes, sorry.
1-1.
Philip?
Same.
Yep. Optimistic at least. Monaco versus Karabag. Eric?
2-1 to Monaco.
Right.
1-0.
Philip?
1-0.
And
I'll show
finally,
how it was a goal.
even a prediction of a goal scorer, blimey. Marseille go to Portugal to take Braga. Eric?
1-1.
Philip?
2-0 to Braga.
That's I'm gonna say 1-0 Marseille for that one. I don't think Braga are playing as well as they have in previous years. But that's all from us this week. My thanks to my two guests, Eric and Philip, for joining me, and everyone at home. Don't take criticism from Squalachi is our lesson this week, and we shall hopefully see you all again next week. Goodbye, everyone.